Hello and welcome back. So it is time to run a storyline mission with the Vexor Navy. Now up until this point I did fly storyline missions with couple ships, including the Caracal Navy, including the Stabber, and also including a MOA. And I did couple of these storyline missions with a destroyer. I used to do the storylines with a Talvar sniper before I did get a cruiser. Now the storyline that I'll be doing here is a tier 6 storyline. Usually the tier 6 storylines will be easier to complete, and they also can give you some very nice rewards. If you combine the mission rewards with the loot that you can get around 75 or 80 million ISK from one of these missions. In my case, I did manage to get 100 million from one tier 6 storyline mission, and I did make quite a profit selling the modules. Now I did that with a Caracal Navy, and now I am very curious to see how this ship will perform. Usually when people start to fly these missions, they fit their ship to be either very tanky or they choose long range. In my case, I will choose long range with this ship. Now, one of the other ships that is also very good for storyline missions is the Maller, or Maller. I don't know how to pronounce that properly, so my apologies for that. But that Amar cruiser is one of my next ships that I'll be getting, because it does have a 4% bonus on armor resistance, which makes the Maller a very powerful ship for overall for missions. And I did see people use that ship for the tier 10 storyline missions, and I might also try the same. Now you did notice I don't have a shield booster, and I also don't have a armor repairer. I did focus the ship purely for drone DPS, and I'll be doing this mission with this exact fit, which means I have to be very careful and I have to choose my targets wisely. That means I will separate the targets by range. Now this mission is known to have one very dangerous frigate and one very dangerous cruiser, all of which will be found in the first area of this mission. Now this storyline is a two-part storyline. This is the first site that you will be warping in at, where you have to fight 4 waves of enemy ships, and after that you will have to dock to return the mission items to the agent, and after that you will have to go to the other mission location where you will have to fight more ships. Now overall this mission is one of my favorites, and very soon I'll be attempting a tier 10 mission. The one thing that I at the moment need for a tier 10 mission is the range. I don't want to do these missions without at least 60 or 70 kilometer range with my drones, and I do want to have drone skill on level 5, because I do want to utilize the 5th drone that I have on my Vexor. That will improve the DPS, and of course it will improve the efficiency at which I will shoot down the targets. Because the Vexor Navy is a drone DPS ship, it should be used primarily with drones at a long range. Now you might have noticed I also have a missile launcher installed instead of the railguns. That is because the missile launchers do have a high range, or they do have a long range than the railguns, and they hit the targets in 100% of cases, and they do a decent amount of damage combined with decent skills that I have for missiles, which is so far working quite nicely. I do like to use missile launchers on the Vexor Navy, because even if I did put railguns it doesn't matter much because you will have only 2 high slots on the Vexor Navy. Now for the drones, I do want to use all kind of drones. That includes the thermal and kinetic drones, and of course explosive drones and EM drones. I will get all of them and I will slowly fill in the drone bay of this ship. But as you already know, drones are very expensive and I don't have a lot of ISK. I am at the moment saving for a new ship that I need, and of course a new ship that I'll be using for nullsec missions, and of course the long-awaited Dead Space sites. I do want to clear those as well, and for that I do want to have a ship that can cloak, because I am kind of very cautious when I am in nullsec, because I know that it is very easy to lose your ship in nullsec, especially if you accidentally warp into a occupied system. In that case you have to be very careful. Okay, let's see who the next target will be. Now, you did notice I don't have any shield booster, I don't have any armor repairer. That means I have to be super careful at the target choosing, and I kind of did want to try to clear a storyline mission without using any shield boosters or any armor repairers. That is because I am just curious to see if my navigation skills are working good. In this case I have to maneuver quite efficient, and of course I have to maneuver quite accurately if I want to avoid all incoming damage. And of course that means I have to target the ship that has the longest range. In this case it's these Celestis cruisers that can hit me from 45 or 60 kilometers, and that will make them a primary target. I have to admit, this kind of storyline mission running is kind of risky, because a lot of these ships can carry a disruptor, and I do mean the elite frigates and cruisers. Even though in this storyline mission I didn't encounter any disruptors, but I do remember that these cruisers do have Nosferatus and neutralizers. Now, I'm not quite sure if the developers did change any of that in one of the recent patches. They might have actually changed a couple things about this, but I'm not quite sure. And because of that, I will do these very cautiously, and I'll be very careful at which ship do I approach. Now, I'm not afraid of the destroyers. They cannot do a lot of damage to my ship, but the other cruisers, they can be a threat, and I will be making them my primary target in a lot of these cases. Speaking of drones, I am also in the process of moving to Mark 7 items, because I am reaching tier 7 soon, and that means tier 7 ships are going to be joining my fleet very soon. And the first one that I do want to get is the Arbitrator Covertops. I think that's a tier 7 ship. Now, that ship is very interesting because it is a drone DPS ship. The similar bonuses are found on that ship that I do also have on the Vexor Navy, which makes me very curious about the Arbitrator Covertops, because I can use drones quite well, and the drones are also very good for PvE, and their mechanics are very interesting. Okay, now that's a elite Thorax, and here I am pulling that cruiser out of the main group of enemies, because that cruiser is a cruiser that is very fast, and that cruiser represents a high level of threat. That means the ship will be my primary target now. And these ships can be very lethal if you are unprepared to fight them. I remember first time when I did this mission with I think a Caracal Navy. I remember accidentally allowing that ship to get too close to me. Now, I wasn't aware at the time that these ships can be very fast. That cruiser is actually very fast, and you have to be very careful around it. But when I did the mission for the first time in my Caracal Navy, I remember allowing that cruiser to get too close to me, and that cruiser neutralized my capacitor. And after that happened, I did have to warp out. When I returned, I did prepare myself for long-range combat, and I managed to snipe this ship. And ever since then, I do make sure to target this ship as my primary target. Now, the difference between the Caracal Navy and the Vexor Navy is, of course, the weapon of choice and, of course, the bonuses. The Vexor will be using drones, while the Caracal Navy will be using missiles, in a lot of cases, rapid missiles. Now, rapid missiles do have overall higher damage output and higher DPS than drones, but you can use drones even outside of your maximum drone control range, which makes drones the most powerful PvE tool in the game and overall the most powerful PvE weapon in the game. And drones are my weapon of choice for missions and storyline missions, and of course encounters, and soon to be even anomalies, because I can just take range from my primary target. I can just drop the drones, launch the drones within the drone range, and then I can safely move away from the primary target, and then I can just wait safely from 200 kilometers for the drones to eliminate one highly dangerous ship that will represent a threat. And you can use this tactic in literally all missions and in all encounters. It is a tactic that I personally do like a lot, and it is a tactic that I will be utilizing in a lot of scenarios when I do these missions. Now, of course, that tactic is mostly bound to ships that use drones as their primary DPS. That kind of includes the Worm, it includes the Gila. Both of these faction ships do use drones, and they do have a very nice bonus on drones. Now, of course, I know the Gila is also a very powerful ship that uses missiles as its primary weapons. So for the Gila, it is more of a medium range. But of course, you can also use the ship with drones, and you should use a Gila with drones, for example. Now, the Worm, I remember the Worm having a insane bonus on drone damage in the first beta. Now, of course, that was nerfed and those ships were reworked, but the Worm as a frigate can be fragile, and those ships in these missions would most likely be using drones as their primary DPS source. Now, that also includes other ships like the arbitrators that also use drones as their primary source of DPS, and generally it includes all ships with drones. Now, for the lasers, that will be the ship of choice, would definitely be a Mahler. That is in the line of being tested out. That ship is, so far that I've seen, one of the best ships to be used for these anomalies and of course for the storyline missions, mostly because you can make them be very tanky. I think getting around 85 or even 90% resistance is actually very easy to get on a Mahler, because you can fit a damage control, you can fit the armor hardeners, and you can fit rigs to increase the armor resistance on that ship. all of which will make that ship very tanky. And that of course doesn't include the 4% resistance bonus on all damage types per skill level that you get on that ship, which means you can get a further 20% resistance on all damage types, and that makes that ship one of the tankiest ships in the game. And that ship also has 5 low slot modules, which means you can install a lot of the defensive modules, which will improve the defenses of that ship even further. And that did catch my attention, and that ship is one of the next ships that I'll be flying. It is generally very similar to a MOA, just it does have a armor tank instead of a shield tank that we did see on a MOA. But I think the Mahler can be and is more effective than a MOA. Of course, I think I'll be testing that out very soon. I'll be getting that ship most likely after I get my tier 7 Court Ops cruiser, because I need a Court Ops ship at the moment because of various reasons, whether it be for fleets and of course for missions and for PvE. Okay, that was I think this was the last ship of the first wave. Now let me just quickly scoop this cache container. Usually these fights don't last long and they're usually very fun. The rewards are very nice and you can loot all the containers. Now I usually only loot the elite shipwrecks because I just need the faction modules, but you can also loot the other wrecks since they also give a very nice reward. And this mission is generally very nice for a tier 6 mission. Reward wise, you get a lot of ISK, which is very crucial and important. Okay, let's see, time to do the part 2 of this mission. And I think I'll do only 8 jumps. Alright, well, that's not too far away. I remember when I did the mission, I think before, I did have to do like 20 jumps per site, which was kind of a lot. And I remember I did have to do around 100 jumps when I did this mission, because in some cases the mission can give you weird destinations, but at the moment I am not facing these problems, which is nice, because that means I don't have to worry about going too deep in the low sag systems. Okay, warping at part 2 of the mission now. Well, as you can see, so far I didn't have to warp out a single time. I didn't change my fit, and so far I'm doing a good job at surviving the mission without any repair module, which is a first for me, because usually I don't do these missions without any module that can restore either my shield or armor, because these missions can be very tricky, especially if the enemy ships carry disruptors, or in the worst case scenario, if they carry disruptors and if they carry neutralizers at the same time. In that case, that is a very deadly combination, which I wouldn't actually risk. Okay, the primary will be... Well, actually, I think I did mess up my primary target here. As you can see, there is a elite Celestis approaching me, and the elite ships generally do a lot more damage, which means I'll have to take distance to avoid taking too much damage, because I am already at 50% of shield. After that thorax is down, I will be targeting that Celestis as my primary target, because it is a elite Celestis and those need to be destroyed. as quickly as possible. Besides carrying decent loot, I also do want to get the ISK reward from these ships. They do give nice ISK rewards. I think it's 400,000 ISK per Elite Celestis, which is nice. And in this mission you generally will get around 5 to 6 million ISK only from the bounty rewards. At least that was in one of the... that was the number that I did get from one of the previous runs of this mission that I was doing. Now, speaking of mission runs, you can actually do these missions very efficiently in a destroyer, and generally it should be a tier 6 destroyer, because the tier 6 destroyers are the tactical sniper destroyers. They are decent, they are actually very nice. I do like the fact that I can use these ships at 60 kilometers. I remember seeing in the Discord someone actually got 98 kilometer range with a Talvar sniper in the sniper mode, and that is indeed a very impressive range. Technically you can do a tier 10 mission with that Talvar, because you have enough range to snipe the battleships from 100 kilometers, and they can do anything from that range. Now, of course, the main problem here are going to be the fast elite battle cruisers and cruisers. They can easily outmaneuver the Talvar because they are indeed ridiculously fast, as you could see in one of the previous videos where I did fight a elite, I think it was a guardian ship that was going 5,000 meters per second. Yeah, right. I mean, that was kind of a ridiculous velocity from that ship, but I did manage to take out the ship quite efficiently, and I was quite satisfied with the reward as well. Now, of course, there are going to be more of these sub-storyline missions, because some of them are actually very interesting and some of them are very fun to play. Okay, the next target will be that Elite Algos. Now again, it is a destroyer, and I am generally not afraid of destroyers. They are fragile ships and they cannot do a lot of damage to my ship. Even the elite destroyers, they aren't much of a threat. The biggest threat here are going to be the cruisers, and in some cases the frigates, because the frigates can be very fast. Now, let's see. I do see 11 more ships. Alright, well, I think this is the second wave, and after this it will be one more wave, and after that the mission will be mostly over. You also do get a loot container, or should I say a loot crate, after you complete these missions, which you can sell or use. Actually, last time I did get quite a decent reward from a cash container. Usually they can be sold for around 2 million ISK, but last time I did get a reward of, I think it was the modules that I did get are sold for at least 5 million ISK per piece, which means I did get 10 million ISK from these loot containers, which is a profit. If I were to sell it, I would actually lose ISK, and in some cases you can open them, and of course if you don't want to open them you can also sell them, or in a lot of cases you can collect them without using or selling them, and maybe after that you can sell them or you can open them, and after that you are kind of guaranteed to get decent rewards after opening it. So there is a lot of possibilities, and of course there's a lot of ways how to use these crates. In my case, I like to use them as soon as I get them, because I do want to get the reward as quickly as I can. Of course, at the moment I am quite enjoying this Vexor Navy. Might as well say that this is so far one of my favorite ships in this game at the moment, because it is so practical, it is so efficient at its job, and generally I don't have I don't have any problems with this ship because it is just a very nice ship to have and fly. Alright, let's see. Oh, that's a lot of ships. 28 ships. Okay, well, have to start with the elite ships just to keep an eye on them. I don't trust these elite ships. Okay, let me start to approach that destroyer. Okay, now as you can see, if I were close to these ships, I would be toasted, since I don't have any. This ship is not built for tanking at the moment. It cannot withstand a lot of damage, and generally the Vexors aren't tank ships. You can make them be generally decently tanked, but I wouldn't be using these ships as tanks because they don't have any bonus pro level on resistances, and you should be using these ships to their full potential with drones, and of course with drone range that I am doing at the moment. That means having rigs to increase either drone damage or to increase drone control range. Now I do plan to change the rigs on this ship. I do want to have better rigs for the drone control range, because I at the moment have, I think, the level 1 rigs. I do want to have the level 3 or level 4 rigs. They will give me, I think, 10 plus kilometers more drone control range per rig, and that is quite nice, which means I can get roughly 10 plus 10 will be 20 kilometers. Of course there is going to be a penalty, so I guess I'll get around 17 kilometer more drone control range, which means I can safely launch drones at around maybe 80 or 90 kilometers after I do have my skills completed, which is indeed quite a nice upgrade, and that will allow me to do the tier 10 missions, the tier 10 storyline missions with this ship. And of course by then I will also have, I think, hopefully Mark 7 or Mark 9 medium drones, and of course if I get lucky and if I actually find the faction drones, I'll be also using faction medium drones. Now I was kind of doing some calculations yesterday, and I was generally very curious to see if you can do these missions with a tier 6 Algos sniper, because that ship is a sniper destroyer and it also has generally the same effect as a Talvar sniper. And in that case I think you can make a Algos sniper to have around the same drone control range as a Vexor navy, which is good because the Algos sniper is a lot cheaper and it uses small drones, but it still does a very decent amount of damage, and you can use that ship if you want for these storyline missions. It will also work without a problem. Okay, well, my shield is still recovering, which is nice. I mean, I don't have any shield boosters, so I have to be very careful and I have to be very patient to approach the right target. And I actually did a good job at choosing the right target. I think only I did do one mistake by accident. I did not see the elite cruiser approaching me, and I almost lost my shield, but thankfully this ship is very fast and I did avoid most incoming damage, which is nice, and I didn't get my armor scratched, which is good. Now, it is also good to note that Gallente ships don't have good shields by default. They have very nice armors, and armor tanks are very good for Gallente ships, which is where the thorax can be used. Now, the thorax doesn't have a armor resistance bonus per skill level. It has armor volume bonus per level, which means it does increase the overall quantity, or should I say the overall size of the armor, while the Maler is increasing the ship's percentage, which is, I think increasing percentage of resistance is actually a lot better than increasing the volume or amount of armor, because you are going to take more damage with lower resistances than a ship that has higher resistances but lower amount of armor. And it will be very good to find a very nice balance between the amount of armor and resistance of armor. Or some ships can have actually both. Some ships can actually have both high armor resistance and very high armor volume. But now that will be a topic when I get the Mauer and when I fly the Thorax. But at the moment I do want to get a tier 7 ship. Let's see what will happen now. Well, I have to say this was one of the... It didn't take me too much to complete this mission. Generally, it took me, I think, last time to complete the mission with a Vexor than, for example, with a Caracal. But again, that is also kind of situational, and for a moment I thought that was my ship. Oh my god. For a moment I thought that my ship blew up for some reason. Okay, I should avoid looking at the Vexors when I do this kind of stuff, because for a moment I thought that I was looking at my own ship there. Okay, well that was kind of funny. 3 more ships left to be destroyed, and after that the mission should be completed. Okay, well these destroyers are actually easy targets, so I don't worry about them too much. Okay, let's see. Now the wrecks are going to be... There's a lot of wrecks. You can actually collect all of them and you can sell all of them. They can be sold for a very decent price. The wrecks also are important. On the market you can sell wrecks for a decent amount of fisk. And of course you can also save the wrecks if you want to use them to reverse engineer blueprints, which is also very nice, and it is also a nice source of wreck income, I guess. And the last destroyer is left on the field, and after that I'll be docking and completing the mission. Now I have to say, this ship is one of those ships that is generally very good at mostly everything, and generally will be good at all of these missions, including the storylines and including the normal missions. And drones at the moment are one of the best weapons of choice for PvE. For PvP they can also be good, but they can be also very expensive to lose, which is one of the reasons why I am very careful when I do PvP with a ship that uses drones as its primary source of DPS. Because if you lose your drones, you lose your DPS, and that makes the ship be vulnerable to incoming fire, and of course it makes the ship defenseless in a way. Well, let's dock and let me get my reward, which will be interesting to see. Well, it's 25 million ISK, so I guess that's a decent reward actually. Well, I do hope that you enjoyed. It is a pleasure to play the game for you, and with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and I'll see you next time.